Hello there. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make this beautiful trendy bubu gown with a square-like design in front. I used the velvet for it. It has a slit at the front area. It's a cut together bubu gown with a front slit. This is actually not mine, it's for my client, so I'm just helping her out try it so that you guys can see what the final look of this is. So let's get right into this. Okay, so this is the fabric that I'll be working with. I got a Mikado fabric, 3 yards of Mikado fabric, and I have this velvet, sequin velvet material that I'm going to be using for the design in front. It's actually a leftover fabric that I have for this, and I'm going to be using it for it. So next, before I started this, I realized it wasn't filming. That's why you see the mark already on this. So first of all, I had to fold this into two. The length I used for this was actually the width I used is 24 inches. That's from the center point of my shoulder down to where I want the sleeve to be, because the sleeve and the bodice is together. So I actually used 24 inches. And after I was done doing this, the next thing I did was just to the length I used the entire 60 inches as my length. For the length of my client, she's quite tall. So next I marked the depth of 1 inch. I'm actually marking the back first before I'm going to mark the front. So then I went down by 3 inches on the shoulder area, and I used my ruler to mark a straight line connecting it back into the neckline. Remember, we're drafting the back first and we're going to use the back for the front. So after I was done doing that, the next thing I did was to mark 15 inches for my sleeve opening. I actually used 15 inches because I wanted it really wide, because I knew I was going to be using an elastic to bring it back together to become her actual arm size. So here I went in at that point by 1 inch and I'm curving it out. So the next thing I'm going to do on the down part of this gown, I'm going to be marking the hip of my client. The hip of the client I'm working with is 42. I marked it and I added an extra 5 inches. But something happened after I was done sewing this. I realized that the 5 inches I added was too much and it didn't let the down part pencil out as I would have wanted. So what I'm going to advise is that when you mark the hip of your clients, please go ahead and just add 3 inches, because that's what I later took out from it and it became very perfect. So here you see me using my ruler to connect the lines down into the sleeve area. And once I was done doing this, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is just to bring in my scissors and I'm going to cut this out. And after I'm done cutting it, I'm going to have to use the front to actually place on another fabric, on like the next fabric, and then I'm going to cut the back. So in case you haven't subscribed to my channel, this is a good opportunity for you to do that. Click on the subscribe button, also hit the notification bell so that you're going to be notified every time that I upload a new video. Trust me, my tutorials are very explanatory and very interesting. So here we're about to draft the front. So first thing I did was to fold the fabric into two like I did for the back, and then I'm marking out my 1 inch allowance for the center front. Remember, it has an opening with a slit in front, so I'm marking out 1 inch that's going to be served as the slit, what I'm going to fold in for the slit. So once I was done doing that, I make the mark very visible so that you guys can see it. And after I'm done doing this, I used my ruler to connect the lines straight down, and next I place the back on this so that we can now derive the front, because the front and back need to be the same thing. So here I'm going ahead to just lay down the front and arranging it well. Lay down the back on the front and arranging it really well. Is just the same shape. So the only thing I'm going to just go ahead and do is to use my scissors and just cut this out. Now watch what I'm doing. As I'm cutting this out, I did not cut the neckline for the front area because I need to take out the back, and then I'll go ahead and then mark the neckline that I wanted for the front and cut it out. It's just the back neckline that I cut. I didn't do the same thing for the back. I just cut out the shoulder area. I cut out the main bodice, the design, and then I left the neckline as it is. This sewing actually gave me a little bit of issues because I had to keep rolling from one end to the other while I was trying to film this, but it's fine anyways. So here I'm done and I'm taking out the back away from the front. And then next I'm going to be determining the neck width that I'm going to be working with. The neck width I used for the back was 3 inches, and that's the same thing I'm going to be using for this. And then the depth, like you see me marking, I used 6.5 inches. So this is the width is 3 inches and the depth is 6.5 inches. So once I'm done doing that, I'm going to bring in my ruler now, and I'm going to be connecting a V into that point to create the neckline that I want, just like seen in the picture. Now you can go ahead and decide to use a neckline of your choice. You can decide you don't want the V neckline on the picture, and that's fine. You could go ahead and do what you like, but I want to just make mine as seen in the picture. So here is me connecting this. I'm actually making this for an aged woman, so I don't want the neckline to be so deep. That's why I'm using 6 inches. Please feel free to just use whatever neckline you desire. But for this, I'm actually making use of 6 inches. So once I'm done doing this, I cut it out, and then I went ahead to just open up that 1 inch path, because I'll need to sew it back together so we can create our slit. I'm opening all the way from the neck down to the length. Okay, so here I'm done opening this, and I went ahead to notch. So what I'm going to do now is to determine the length of the slit that I want. And what I did was, from the shoulder, I stopped at 40 inches. But please go ahead and just do as you like. So here, this is me. I've gone to the sewing machine and I've sewn this down all the way, and I've ironed it. As you can see me in this picture, in this video, I ironed it down. Here is what it looks like. This is what the front looks like. So next thing I'm going to be doing is that I am going to use my hemming gum to just hold that place down. But first, before you do that, you need to go ahead and weave the rough edges, or maybe serger it, depending. So once you're done doing that, then you can proceed with the other sewing of this. Remember that how I closed this was that I sewed that 1 inch that I marked down. I sewed it and stopped at the very point where I wanted my slit to end. For her, I used the 40 inches. If I was making for myself, maybe I'd want it higher, like 36 or thereabout. But for her, since she's a mommy, so I'm using 40 inches for her. So here I have gone ahead to use my iron to add my hemming gum to this. You can see what it's looking like. That place is held firm. So once I'm done doing this, then next I'm going to be bringing in the back at this point, and I am going to be sewing on the shoulder. Do you see what it looks like? Way up to the opening on that side. Then I'm going to be putting this together, front and back together, and I'm going to go hold it down on the shoulder. And once I'm done holding it down on the two shoulders, then I'm going to use my bias to just bias the neckline and, you know, cover up the rough edges. Please, you can go ahead and use a facing to do yours. You can find a tutorial on how to attach a facing on my channel, somewhere on my channel. I'm also going to add it in the description box below, but for me, I preferred to just use a bias strip to do mine. So here I've gone ahead to just close the sides, to close the neckline, and I've gone ahead to hem the neck, the shoulder, and hem the neckline. And then next thing I did was that I actually folded around the sleeve area, creating a casing for my elastic. So this is the casing for my elastic. So after I'm done doing that, next thing I did was I just brought in my elastic, and I decided the length that I wanted for each of these. And her round sleeve is 12 inches, but I decided I was going to use a 10-inch elastic. I didn't want it too tight, neither did I want it really loose. So I went ahead to cut that into two places because I needed to add elastic for the two sleeves, two sleeve area. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and use my pins to just secure these, so that I'm going to pass it through the casing that I have created. So here is me trying to pass this elastic on that casing. So I'm going to go ahead and keep pulling it over little by little, and then once the elastic was finishing, I had to use my pin to just secure it at the end before I continued up till the end. So guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel at this point, please do well to subscribe, hit the notification bell, share my videos, like, comment. I mean, it gives me some form of encouragement to keep doing more. You can also on the comment section let me know some of the topics that you might want me to handle, and I'll do my best to maybe handle some or maybe all of them. So here you see me using the pins to secure that part before I continued, and I did the same thing for the other end. So this is a pattern paper that I'm going to be using to cut the front design, the square-like design in front. So for the length, I'm working with 11 inches, and for the width of that square-like design, I'm working with 9 inches. So here is me marking the lines together, and I'm going to have some sort of square after I'm done doing this. This is the width. I'm working with 9 inches, and the length I worked with 11 inches. If you want it bigger, then that's fine. If you want it smaller, you can go ahead and create just like you want. But for me, I think I like the size that I'm working with. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to use my scissors now to cut this out and go ahead to create the triangular form that we had on the down part of the square. Okay, so here I'm cutting out that design there I have made. I'm cutting it out right now, and this is what it looks like at this point. So I'm going to be folding it over into two, so that I'm going to be cutting the square-like design that's on the down part of this this front design that I'm going to be putting. So here I just went up by 2.5 inches. You could do 2, you could do 3, depending on how much of a pointed edge you want on this square. So I did 2.5, and I'm using my ruler to mark it straight down into the pointed edge, and I'm using my scissors to cut it out. Then once I'm done doing this, I just open it up and you guys will see what this looks like. This is actually coming together. So this is what it looks like, guys. It's looking beautiful already. So next I'm going to be bringing in my velvet fabric. I have gone ahead actually to add an interlining to my velvet fabric. I added this interlining so that it will make it firmer, all right, and so that it doesn't keep moving. You know, a velvet is actually stretchy, so you can, and so that it gives it the firm look, and also it's not stretching all over while I'm sewing it. All right, so here I'm pinning it down because I want to cut it out. So once I'm done pinning it out, what I did next was just to add half inch on each of the side of this square, half inch all the way. Okay, and after doing that, I will just cut it out. This bubu gown is actually very simple, and I don't know, even if you're a beginner, I think you can actually do this. It's really simple. So there's something I did here, guys. After I cut out after I followed the half inch that I'd added and cut this all the way around, I did not cut the part that had the triangular form, because I figured out that if I went ahead to cut that part, it might not really align. Do you understand? They might not have the same shape. So what I did was I first of all cut out the other edges that are straight, and then I have to put this into two places, like folded it into two places just the same way that I cut it out, to enable me cut out that down part. Yeah, this is what I mean. You see the way that I'm laying it flat, I'm folding it together so that I can cut that part out, so that I make sure that, and this will help me get same edge on each of these parts. So this is it. Next thing is just to take away the pattern on this, and then I will take this to my sewing machine. Sorry, not to the sewing machine. I'll take this to the ironing table first of all, and I'm going to use my iron to fold in that half of an inch inwards. Okay, so when I was doing this with my iron, what I did to enable it to stay firm, I was sprinkling a bit of water, and then I put my iron on a very good heat, and I ironed it down all the way around, like you see me show you. Okay, so here is what it looks like after I was done ironing. Remember, I used water, so this is what it looks like. This is what the inside looks like. See the way I folded it inwards by 1/2 of an inch. That's the 1/2 of an inch that I added all the way around. So next I'm going to place this on the center point of this cloth, but then I will need to find the center point of this design. You see me folding it, and I'm using my hand to just hold down that point, and I placed it right on the center point of this blouse. Please, you can go ahead and iron yours before you can, place this or insert this, but then I hadn't ironed mine. I wanted to finish and then do the ironing at the same time. So this is what it is, and then this pointed edge, make sure it's actually going to stay put on that line, the pointed edge on that line, because that's where the center is. So once I'm done doing this, I just went ahead, nothing else, I just went ahead to just add my pins all the way on this so that it doesn't move, because if you don't add your pins, by the time you're sewing, it keeps moving from one end to the other. So it's best to just take your time and slowly add your pins all the way around to secure it firmly, so that by the time you are sewing, you don't have any difficulty or issue of this moving out of line or out of place, so that you'll be able to sew this and it looks really fine and perfect. Okay, this tutorial is just super easy. So one thing I'd like to mention is you can this gown mustn't really be okay, I'll do that later. So here I'm showing you guys, I will go to my sewing machine and I will sew it around. So I am done sewing it, and the next look you're going to see is actually the final look of this gown. Yes, I'm going to put it on the mannequin and you see the final look. So this is what the sleeve looks like. I've gone ahead to also sew down the two sides. Okay, I just used 1/2 of an inch to sew the two sides. It's actually a freeware, so that's no big deal to sew down the two sides, and this is what it looks like. So here is the final look. Okay, what I wanted to say before was that it's not a must that you must make this as long as this is. You could actually make yours short, I mean, I think it's about choice and all. And remember guys that I said to make the tip pencil even more, what I did, because I noticed that it did not really pencil like in the picture or like I would have loved it to. So what I did, instead of that 5 that I added, what I did was I added the hip of my client divided by 4. That's 1/4 of her hip divided by 4 plus 3 inches. That was what I later ended up cutting out from this to actually make that down part pencil out so well. So this is what it looks like. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.